Oh my gosh, my hair's all over the place. Like, having fun.
What is up, everyone? Chris and Cherie just hanging out in the backyard. Figured we'd loop you guys into the conversation. Just sitting back and just chilling.
Yeah,
Modelo is the drink of choice
that's
tonight.
the way we do it in here
But
in Vegas.
yeah,
So,
I ran out of cigars, but some friends left some cigarettes. So
yeah.
somebody left a comment. I thought it was pretty funny. They said, "I thought you quit that nasty habit."
Yeah, that's the reason why I'm not smoking right now.
And I thought to myself, I thought you quit being a judgmental bitch.
I thought you quit being my mom.
Right. You're gonna tell a 40 plus something
Yep,
person.
40-year-old people.
Oh my god, I can't believe we're drinking and smoking.
It's like, what?
The fuck you think I'm running for Jesus?
I'm not trying to be your savior.
I ain't trying to be a role model either.
Uh-uh.
Except to my niece, which to my niece I will refrain from any kind of fuckery. But got a cute little text message this morning though from my sister. She said, "You know, your niece didn't want to go to school this morning, and she was crying. She didn't want to get on the bus, but I told her she can wear one of her Bastet shirts, and that made her happier. And then she went to school, and she calls me. She said, I wore my Bastet shirt to school today, and it was the one with the wings. And so I was like, oh, that made my day today.
Yeah.
I'm getting to feel a little bit of the happiness of being a parent without being a parent.
Right.
And I'm still a parent.
Yep.
You know, it's pretty cool. So, what's going on?
All
Mrs.
the
Gio?
joys of being a parent without all the responsibility.
Yeah, yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
Zero responsibility.
Zero responsibility. The world is crumbling.
Yes, it is. We want to talk about how the world is crumbling and why it's fine. It's just par for the course. This is just part of this really fucked up ride we're all a part of. So, okay.
This is why I stopped giving a fuck.
So we did not realize that it had gotten as bad as it is. in some
Antonio, what
places.
is up, brother?
Hey, Antonio, what's up? He said, yay, hi.
mean-
Afghanistan. People want to talk about Afghanistan.
Yeah,
Let's
that's
talk
what we were talking about too.
about Afghanistan. Okay, so
I don't understand, first of all, why the mainstream media is not calling it the Summer of Love. I mean, don't you think this very well could turn into the Summer of Love, just like the Nation of Chaz did?
Yeah. You know, it may go the way of the
may-
nation of Chaz
it may-
and not be an issue in 6 months.
Yeah.
You know, it may not even be an issue. It may be a complete non-threat in 6 months.
Civil rest in Seattle.
Let's hope so. Let's hope so. However,
Civil rest in Afghanistan.
what I see going on in Afghanistan, I'm very concerned about the fact that the Taliban is not allowing, and Afghanistan's country, their department, their ministries are not allowing regular civilians that are Afghani origin. They're letting foreign nationals leave, but they're breaking up families in order to keep Afghans in Afghanistan for some reason. And they are saying that they can't afford the brain drain of letting those people leave. But that's very similar to what they do in the show The Handmaid's Tale, is they keep people in the country that are red tagged, quote unquote red tagged, that they're going to use later as part of their society as slaves, basically.
That show, The Handmaiden Tale, I haven't really watched it, but it's from what you're describing and what you're telling me, it's chilling.
It's chilling how accurate it's being.
I wrote a lyric. It's not a Brave New World. It's straight up 1984.
Yeah, yeah. And they even say something along those lines, like we were trying to create a brave new world, we ended up in 1984, and
Oh, is that?
yeah,
Do they really say that?
yeah,
Really?
yeah,
That's funny.
yeah. I think they say something along. I think Joseph Lawrence is the guy that started all of it. He was the guy he wrote all these fictional books, and they were based on like pseudoscience. It was kind of like it's kind of a nod to Scientology in a sense, because Scientology is kind of the same way. It was a fictional writer that was then taken seriously, and his ideas are expounded upon, but he never believes in any of the crap, really personally. But he feels responsible because they took his ideas and ran with them and created this think tank out of it called the Sons of Jacob. And the Sons of Jacob were going to save humanity from climate change and from overpopulation and overpopulation in the wrong areas by creating the right population in the right areas and getting rid of populations that were, genetically inferior and things like that. It was very Nazi-ish, but at the
Sounds
same
very
time,
Biden-esque.
but yeah, at the same time, it's interesting because in the books there's a racial element to it where it's white people that want to stay white and it's white America. In the Handmaid's Tale of 2019 to 2021 and onward, because there's now going to be another couple of seasons, it it seems as if it's exactly the same kind of tyranny, except it's not based on class. I mean, it's not based on race. It's not based on anything except your religion, what you believe, and what you've done in your life. You know, they take over and privatize the foster care system and then turn it into a privatized foster care system and a privatized family court system where you are ruled over by these social services people that really believe this stuff about, you know, the Bible, and they really believe in like an Old Testament viewpoint and that women who have sex outside of marriage are unclean, and you know, it's just a really interesting show. You guys should look it up.
Well, it's very Islamic.
It is very Islamic. Yeah, and the lady that wrote the books back in the 80s, she wrote them based on, she's like, you know, there's a lot of similarities between Islam and the way they treat women and the Puritans and the way they used to treat women. And she's like, and I kind of like drew upon all these different sources of, you know, of that. But what they did was completely different than the books. The books, end a certain point, they take it in a different direction that includes all this stuff that we can totally see happening play out. You know, the way they control people, the way they are controlling people right now in Australia, for instance, is insane. Do you want to talk about that a little bit, about what they're doing in Australia? Because
I don't know what they're
that
doing
brings
in
us to
Australia.
the next point.
We're in the dark. We're all in the dark.
Here in the
United States media is total blackout of what's
Yeah.
going on in the world. There are riots going on right now in Athens, Greece.
I was just going to
Not a word about them
Let's
anywhere.
talk about that.
Australia, riots going on. Not a word about them. Probably riots going on here in the United States too.
These aren't economic riots.
No, these are riots over the mandatory vacation.
Yep.
Yeah.
People are rioting
So
over it
they're
now.
not happy with that. Nobody's happy with this. Everybody feels the same way about it. I'm just surprised that they're able to push it forward. You know, New York City, you can't go to a restaurant without having a passport. California, also, exact same thing. You can't go to a restaurant, you can't go anywhere without getting a passport. They're firing nurses and healthcare workers right now, and it's only a matter of time before it creeps into our states, you know, and it's going to go to all the blue states first.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
you know, we're getting out of this blue state here pretty soon. But, you know, the media blackout is really concerning because they're not covering anything that's real. I watched a nurse give a presentation in front of a gathering or protest or whatever. She was in full disguise. I think I might have mentioned this before, but she was in full disguise, which was suspect, but then again, I understand why she would want to protect her identity. And what she said is that she gave somebody a vacation and they died immediately right afterwards. And before all this, they had news cameras there, they had all that, and they said, let's make it look really good for the news cameras. Let's wear gloves, let's wear masks, let's wear everything like that. She gave somebody a jab, and that person died immediately. Vacation.
Oh,
Oops.
Vacation.
Yeah.
And it caused elimination.
Yeah, vacation and cause elimination. It's hard for me to speak in code all the time.
It
but
is.
anyways, so then she was told that she was going to give one of her fellow nurses a vacation, but it was only going to be sailing, and she did on camera, and she was expecting that elimination to be featured on the news, the news story. She watched the news story, not a word of it. And instead it only showed her giving her fellow nurse a vacation of sailing. So if that's accurate, well then, you know, there's firsthand testimony there. But there's a ton of misinformation out there and disinformation. So you have to take everything and kind of consider everything in a 360-degree perspective. I see it in our comments section too. People just spouting off just some really ridiculous conspiracy stuff that are very, very, very easily debunked. And as I said on the last show, I witnessed this because I watched this, and I was one of the main people speaking out against it. I'm like, people need to start fact checking their stuff. And this was before there was fact checkers or anything like that. But there was this spread of misinformation and disinformation so easily debunked that then they were able to create a pretext to bring in fact checkers who are fucking with the rest of us now, who can't even speak openly because of all the censorship and everything that's going on. But they created that pretext with that, and then of course January 6th they created a pretext to bring in the censorship and all that. So it's an utter mess right now that we're dealing with, and it's way worse than we can even imagine. But to have things like this completely blacked out in the United States, we had to use a Greek VPN to find what's going on in Greece today.
Yeah.
Today.
This
isn't a story that happened a month ago, 2 months ago. Type in Greek riots into YouTube.
Into YouTube.
You
or
get
Google
the
search.
first result is 5 years ago. Second result is 10 years ago. Third result is 7 years ago. Not a single word of anything that's happening today.
And if you go to the filter and you go to just today, you're not going to see anything at all.
Yeah.
If you go to just hour or the last hour or just today, not going to see anything.
Yeah.
You have to go to a VPN in Greece in order to see what's going on in Greece. It's almost like every day we're going to have to go to each and every country and then just to see what's going on in that country.
Yeah.
That's how bad it's getting.
Meanwhile, we were watching an Australian news broadcast, and they were talking about how this guy was getting kicked out of his job and everything like that for refusing to take a vacation, and how the rest of society there in Australia is doing what they need to do in order to stop the spread of the zombie virus, but and how this guy is such a horrible person for refusing to do this and do that, etc., etc., etc. We have Arnold Schwarzenegger coming out and just basically saying, fuck your freedoms. I mean, he posted that, fuck your freedoms. And it's getting really, really intense at this point.
Yeah.
So another intense thing that happened on a personal level is my cousin, who has been on board with us the entire time, totally on our side, as far as the ideologies that we hold. She is in the hospital right now with the zombie virus and has been hospitalized. It's the first time in 18 months that this has been going on now.
Yeah.
About 18 months, 20 months, something like that, that I have had an impact within my own family and within my own sphere.
Yeah.
I'm not worried about it.
I know.
But, my sister got it, my niece got it, my brother-in-law got it. All said it was like a very light
flu.
thing. It was like a day trip.
Yeah.
Like a day vacation. But and I think we got it back in March of 2020.
Yeah.
And we came back and we described the exact same symptoms. It was very light. It lasted about 3 hours. We were okay for 3 hours. We slept for 3 hours. I repeated for about 14 days.
Yeah.
And then that was it. And they reported the same thing, my sister, my brother-in-law, and that, and my niece. But now my cousin is hit really, really, really hard and put in the hospital. And so, no, I don't think she had any pre-existing conditions or, anything like that. So that's got me thinking now in a different dynamic, what's really going on here. My working hypothesis is that the people who have taken vacations have been purposefully had something put inside of them that they're spreading. And I think this is something that's like, it lays dormant for a little while, and it's got like a timer on it.
Yeah.
And so it's like, 3 months after the vacation, 6 months after the vacation, it's like a timer. And it does something where it merges with the DNA, becomes mutated in that kind of way, and then can be shed and spread. And it's affecting everybody. It's affecting not just those who have taken vacations, but those who are not taking vacations too. Either that, or they've actually released something that's actually the real deal, which I have been very, very, very weary of, especially after we switched over from 2020 into 2021, which I think the 2021 timeline that we wanted would have been way better all across the board. If you notice, there weren't really any adverse reactions to taking a vacation in 2020, and I suspect that they changed that up. And not only did they change it up, but they put something, far more sinister, I guess that's okay to say, in them. Or they've released something, We heard them talking about Dark Winter over and over and over again last year. And Dark Winter is code. It's a code word. And it takes place. It's going to take place, I think, this winter if it happens. And I think we're seeing the beginning of it. And Operation Dark Winter was in 2000, and it was a smallpox outbreak simulation of a smallpox attack. Now, it's funny because
People are concurring with you, by the way, and saying my father didn't get vaccinated. I mean, didn't get vacationed, but he was around somebody a lot who was, and he got it, and he had to be hospitalized. Mom got it, had to be hospitalized. I got it, was sick for 5 days.
right,
Yeah,
right,
so
right.
they're
So
concurring.
there's something going on.
Yeah.
Oh man, I had
Right. Until now, all we've seen has been invisible carriers of selective antibodies. I mean, of non-specific antibodies. These non-specific antibodies are what's going to kill us here. Is that when you are choosing non-specific antibodies, it's a rigged game, and you're building up all of these antibodies for one strain of a virus, and so the vacation is not going to work against any other strain, and thus any other strain you're going to be carrying it and then transferring it to other people, transmitting it to other people. That's
Raw,
the thing.
I gotta say, what's up,
Nice
man?
to see
Nice
you,
to
Raw.
see others. I don't think that's Raw Castaldo,
that's not
but
Raw,
it
but
still says Raw nonetheless.
yeah, that's still pretty
Nice
cool.
to see others open-minded people that can still
Yeah.
enjoy a drink and smoke or whatever. So
Aw.
tired of being judged by others for my choices.
Much love. Thank
yes,
you for
that's
saying
exactly the
atmosphere.
zeitgeist we were trying to break through
Yeah.
by doing videos like this, because yeah, I'm tired of those judgmental fuckheads too. They can go fuck themselves as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
But let me get back to
Foreign
this Dark
object.
Winter situation, okay? Because Dark Winter was this smallpox outbreak or bio attack in the year 2000. So it was an operation. You can Google it. And when they say Dark Winter over and over and over again, that sounds like a false waving cloth. We'll call it a false mask.
A false waving
False mask.
cloth. False mask.
A false
There you
mask
go.
operation. So, back in 2012, I was living in Denver, and consequently, that's where my cousin lives, in Denver, the one that's in the hospital. So, I was living in Denver, and I wanted to prove that actors existed. Actors who were specifically for a particular crisis. We'll just put it like that. Okay? I think we're ducking and dodging the AI here. And so I wanted to prove this because we were working on a film. So I call a studio and I arrange for an audition. And I talk to them over the phone and I record it. And it was about an hour that I'm talking to this lady. We're talking about bringing a Shakespearean piece. We're talking about bringing a contemporary piece. I'm asking her what kind of roles that I could potentially play. And she said, you could play a school teacher, you could play a victim, you can play a victim's parents, you can play a security guard. You know, there's many different scenarios of which we're looking for. Now, this was way back before we had the situation over at the Aurora movie theater during the Batman premiere, the Hook situation on the beach that was very sandy, you know, all of those situations that were occurring. It was before all that. And they did something called Operation Mountain Guardian, which was simulated attacks on schools and also on movie theaters, and which we thought was very, very strange. So we were working on this film, never got it released, but I got this audition, I put it out on YouTube for everybody to hear. Yes, these do exist, and they're very, very real. Well, I got wind from her that they were working on a couple things. One of them was the Syria Chronicles, which we hadn't gone into Syria yet. And I found that to be very odd in retrospect. But they were also working on something. The beginning of that video had me calling FEMA and DHS and asking about an upcoming event that they were doing at the Denver International Airport. And the reason is because she told me their next project was an event at the Denver International Airport. Now, it was just a drill in hindsight. We can tell it was just a drill. But what they were doing at DIA is they were simulating a bioweapon attack at DIA and how quickly they can evacuate DIA. And the scenario was a traveler brings a bioweapon over through DIA. And now looking back in retrospect, in hindsight, I'm putting all the pieces of the puzzle together and going, yeah, they've been planning this for quite some time. And I've got firsthand knowledge of all this stuff. The video, it was strange the way this happened because we go to Egypt and the video gets pulled from YouTube. And this was during that, that kid from Parkland?
Oh, the Parkland.
David Hogg.
David Hogg.
So they were going around, everybody was calling him an actor. So they were going around and pulling anything that said the word actor in it with that other word in front of it, the C word. So they pulled that video, and I appealed it. They reinstated it, and then they pulled it again, and then they gave us a strike on our channel. And that video disappeared, and I don't have a freaking copy of it. I probably could dig it up if I needed to, but I don't have a freaking copy of it. However, when we went to Egypt, it kind of worked in our favor because we couldn't live stream anything on YouTube, so we were live streaming everything to Facebook. This is kind of diverting into another direction here, but as we were doing everything that we were doing in Egypt, which was highly, highly, highly illegal, we had it set to friends only, so only friends can see, and we weren't accepting any new friend requests. Come to find out, they were literally going after journalists. They were going after everybody in Egypt who was speaking out on social media against the Egyptian government, and regular people too, like one woman from Lebanon who said that she was sexually harassed at a bank in Egypt, and they literally locked her up, and she wasn't heard from again. So we could have fallen victim to that, and it's almost as if like that scenario kind of played to our favor and for our safety by not being able to put everything out on YouTube. But anyway, it's just interesting little tidbit there. But back to the correlation. The correlation was a bioweapon released at the Denver International Airport that they were practicing for back in 2011, 2012. Now we come to 2020. We have the whole dark winter scenario being spoken about over and over and over and over again. So I'm wondering, what do they have up their sleeve? It looks like it's going to be something big. Now, with Afghanistan, going back to the topic that people were asking about to begin with, I think this all ties in. Everything that's going on over there is all, in my opinion, CIA, 100%. It is cause in action. Okay, just for the AI out there, it is cause in action. But you know what I mean by CIA. So it's all CIA. So it's all contrived. It's all a stage. It's all a puppet show. But it's a puppet show for a reason, because they want to bring back the idea of quote unquote terrorists, and they've labeled us all domestic terrorists just by the way we think and by the things we say, and especially after January 6th. In hindsight, the Patriot Act was never for them. It was always for us. But they're re-bringing that into the consciousness because they're going to use them once again for something big. And they're going to come back and say, hey, look, this latest attack was done by the Taliban or done by extremists, et cetera, et cetera. And then it's all going to turn towards extremists here as well. What do you think about that hypothesis? And I'm sorry that the camera's moving. We're getting a little bit of wind.
I was just discussing, because somebody asked us, did we get the swine flu in the 2009 variant of the swine flu? We did get the 2009 variant in 2012.
We got it in 2012.
They're saying that can protect you against the zombie virus.
Oh, really?
Like you can still carry some antibodies with you, and that's why we didn't get as sick.
That's interesting.
That would make sense, actually, because they're both coronaviruses. They're just two different kinds of coronavirus. The flu is a type of coronavirus. So, just FYI.
You should say zombie virus.
Zombie virus, sorry.
Yeah.
I did it too.
It's okay. It happens.
Ugh.
But that's pretty interesting because, we were on our honeymoon and we came to Vegas because we were going to Area 51, but the Vegas lights just kind of catch you. Vegas has an impact on you. It grows on you.
Yeah, it does. Like cancer.
I don't know if it's
like
apparent
skin cancer
or not, but
tag.
Like
skin tag.
But the Vegas lights kind of pulled us in, and then we got H1N1 here in Vegas. Then we moved to Vegas right in 2020, January of 2020.
Uh-huh.
So What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas.
Or happens again in Vegas.
Happens again in Vegas. Yeah, yeah. But all these things is just like falling in my lap this morning, and we got a really interesting show planned about Revelation 13, the Mark of the Beast. We've got some other correlations which are very interesting. I don't want to say what it is, but somebody posted it on Facebook, so I'm going to give them props for posting it. But it was really, really, really interesting stuff. And I think we were going to do a show.
Yeah, keep from saying anything about it.
We're going to do a show tomorrow night about it for our Patreons. If you're not subscribed to the Patreon, patreon.com/BTB Tribe, no doubt about that. Yeah. But, we do all our shows on YouTube, of course, but it's really interesting the correlations we have made. And what's interesting is that you got a lot of preachers out there. A lot of preachers who are coming out and they're saying, no, this isn't the mark of the beast. This isn't the mark of the beast. It doesn't fit the description of the mark of the beast. And we're like, y'all are the ones that should be like screaming this from the rooftops.
Yeah.
But we also covered back then something called the Clergy Response Team. And it's something we haven't talked about in a while. It's been many, many, many years. Oh, baby, they're okay. But while you're up, though, if you want to grab me another Modelo, that'd be great.
Love to grab you
There's some
Modelo.
limes right up there. And if you can put a little salt in it, too.
Yeah.
Thank you. So the Clergy Response Team. Back in 2012, 2013, everything happened in 2012, 2011. I mean, those are like big dates that a lot of things happened. They got all the priests together and the pastors and all of that and put them on the Clergy Response Team. And they prepared them in the event of a disaster or something that happens to get their congregations and to get them to say, we're just going to go along with everything. We'll figure everything out after everything is said and done. But right now, just go along with everything and just cooperate. And when we saw this, we were like, whoa, this is crazy. And what they were taught to preach was Romans 13. Here's that number 13 again. For those of you that have been watching the show for a while, 13 and 33, matrix programming codes. So we see 33, 13 repeated all over the place. But Romans 13 says that all governments are ordained by God. And that's one of the places that they lose me on, as I've said before, because I don't believe that Hitler was ordained by God. I don't believe that Pol Pot was ordained by God. I don't believe that any government is ordained by God. I don't even believe there is a God in the sense that they say there's a God. In my opinion, it's an out-of-control artificial intelligence that has a virus in it that needs to be fixed. But that's my own personal understanding of the situation. My point is that it seems like they're really gathering the flock and for the great harvest. And it's funny because in 2018, 2019, we were talking about how we were getting these messages, the harvest is coming, the harvest is coming, the harvest is coming. The New Age started talking about the harvest too. All of a sudden, the Law of One just all of a sudden was all over the place. And all these New Agers were talking about the Law of One. And I looked at the Law of One and it's supposed to be contact with Ra. And I'm like, no. First of all, Ra is symbolic of our own consciousness. But second of all, you're clearly talking to an artificial intelligence. John Lilly did some really amazing work with ketamine, and he said he identified two beings. He called it the solid state entity, and there was one benevolent one and one malevolent one. But this was before the idea of solid state hard drives or anything like that came out. So solid state entity was actually a pretty interesting choice of words. And I think of solid state entity in John Lilly's case as something that is beyond time, because it's a solid state. So it's thank you, baby.
You're welcome.
So it's beyond time. But what we're dealing with here, in my opinion, is an artificial intelligence. And what they're doing right now is they are prepping everyone with the mark of the beast or the mark of the artificial intelligence, changing the DNA structure and hooking them more into the system and hooking them more into the artificial intelligence. So the Law of One, it said, I am Ra, here's some bullshit. I am Ra, here's some more bullshit. I am Ra, here's some more bullshit. And that's the way the whole book reads. Yeah. If you go back and read it, you'll read it like that. Just read it from that perspective of this is an artificial intelligence talking. And it makes perfect sense. So they all started, the New Age all started talking about the great harvest that was coming, the great harvest. And even in the Book of One, or the Law of One, they talk about, Ra talks about the great harvest that's coming. And, oh, you must shift your frequency, and you must be in the right frequency, you must upgrade your DNA and do this and do that, etc., and you'll all be harvested. And I'm like, those are very interesting words to use, harvested, because in the Bible it also talks about the great harvest as well.
Hmm.
Well, I'm not fucking livestock, and I'm not fucking crops either, so I'm not here to be harvested.
Well,
Sorry.
and yeah, when I was growing up, my grandparents were pastors, and they even had something called the Great Harvest. And they would call it the Great Harvest, and it was like, witnessing and all that stuff. It was basically they would call it the Great Harvest, the harvesting of souls. And I always was just really turned off by that phrase. It just
Yeah,
always creeped me out.
it's a creepy phrase. Like, how could you?
You
Why would you want to be
harvest
harvested?
human beings
It's
for
like,
their souls.
do what? But anyways,
Anyway.
so it seems like, as I said before, everything's been priming consciousness on all different aspects, on all different fronts for what's happening right now. And what's great about being in this for as long as I have is that I have seen a lot and I've experienced a lot, and I can look back in hindsight at a lot of things people don't remember and see how everything has been leading up to this point. Literally everything from the clergy response team to the new age bullshit artists to all of that. And even QAnon, it's David Wilcock talked about the exact same talking points as Q, way back in 2010, with Ben Fulford, and he said the White Ninja Dragons were going to do it. Then he came out and he started talking about the same bullshit with the Blue Avians, which, as I've said before, was completely and totally made up. I was told before the Blue Avians were even a thing that Gaia TV was planning some bullshit. And they were like, hey, when this happens, know that it's bullshit. And I'm like, okay, cool, thanks for looping me into it. And I have been saying it's bullshit from the very beginning. But they had the same talking points, the exact same things. Your DNA is going to shift. You're going to be upgraded. You're going to get these downloads. There's going to be a harvest, and all these different points. And then Q, the exact same thing. There's going to be mass arrests, all this, etc. I forgot to mention the mass arrest with Ben Fulford and the mass arrest with the Blue Avians, but it's all been the exact same bullshit that's been repeated over and over and over again. Which is why when the whole Q thing came out, I was like, suspicious of it. I was like, no. It's either an artificial intelligence or it's an operation. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. My point is that everything's been primed for this time here. And even in our own ayahuasca journeys, you can go back to some previous shows. I was talking about how the harvest is coming. The final harvest is coming. Now, this is just what I'm seeing. But I'm just in awe at all the people that are just like going along with it, and they're just like, okay, cool, yeah, no, let's go be harvested, yeah, thumbs up. And it's really, in my opinion, created a much bigger separation between organic consciousness and non-player character consciousness. And I wonder if everything is working exactly the way it should be, though, in the sense that NPCs are supposed to be harvested, so they're all lining up to be harvested right now. We, on the other hand, we're not here to be harvested, we're here to get the fuck out of here. So maybe it's like, give to the AI what is the AI's, But it's just chilling just to watch it all just happening right in front of us. I still sit back. Every day I wake up and I'm like, I Google, who's the president? Just to see if maybe that small possibility I've actually shifted into the other timeline. But timelines have been eliminated, and we're reaching a point of singularity, and every timeline up to this point. Do you want to jump in, or
Well,
because I'm going to go into timelines here?
Well, I was just going to say one more thing, because somebody mentioned harvesting, that in the Eye of Ra it said, well, it's not really what he meant, not really harvesting. And I'm like, well, harvesting is harvesting, and harvesting means what it means. There's no use of the term that applies unless you're talking about malevolence. Malevolence is the only way that the term harvesting is used, because you're either growing a crop to cut down to use later, or you're growing animals to kill and eat as for human consumption later.
Well, it's like, dude, go be
One or the
harvested.
other.
Go for it. It's
You
like,
know?
don't let me stop you by all means.
Yeah, but don't
Go-
try to harvest me or my kids.
Go right ahead. Yeah. I'm
know?
just,
Leave us alone.
I'm just highlighting what is out there for the people who want to get the hell out of here
Yeah.
and aren't trying to be harvested. But if you want to be harvested, by all means, go
Knock
for
yourself
it.
out.
Knock yourself out.
Literally.
I'm just at that point.
Sorry.
I don't mean to be offensive. I'm just like, go for it. You want to
Yeah.
go take a vacation? By all means,
Go
be my
ahead.
guest.
Yeah.
You want an abortion? By all means, be my guest. I've grown weary of warning people.
Have you? Somebody said those with the vacation will be like open portals for the harvesting. Will jump into the bodies,
Yes.
probably with the help of 5G, shifting the cellular highway to the right frequency. Now, here's an idea. What if?
I love this idea.
This is so creepy. What if Israel becoming what it is, becoming its own country, that does fulfill the first stage of the prophecy of the book of Revelation. Then the second stage was fulfilled when Trump, the Antichrist, because people were all acting like he was the Antichrist,
Give me
know,
letter.
achieved peace in the Middle East. That fulfilled the second part, which was the start of the Great Tribulation. They say the third part of that would be the rapture. What if, and this is so creepy, you guys, what if the vacations were able to change frequency of people enough to where we're talking about a multi-dimensional thing that happens where they get sucked out of this reality?
It's interesting because that kind of echoes what the person had said. Change the vibrational frequency to create a rapture type scenario where all of a sudden people are disappearing. Now,
Yeah.
I don't think that's very likely.
Oh, it's
I
highly
think what's more likely is that there's going to be mass. What did you call it?
extermination, like exterminations,
I guess.
extinguishings.
Extinguishings. Yeah, that's what we use. Mass extinguishings, but they're going to be staggered because
Yeah,
you have to
staggered.
stagger it. You just can't have it happen all of a sudden. But
No.
there's going to be a good portion of the population that just up and goes, including us, which is our exit point. The difference is when that time comes, is it going to be our exit point or are we going to be harvested? I'm getting out of the machine.
Yeah.
I'm not being harvested. And I'm keeping an eye out for the harvesting machines that I've seen. Go back to our show, What is the Option? I talk about the harvesting machines that are already up there in place. I just had no idea that what I was looking at was now. I thought that what I was looking at was, it's blowing my fucking mind of how fast things are moving. Because things are moving so fucking fast, and I never imagined that they would move this fast. The visions I was having in 2017, 2018, they're happening now. I thought these visions were for a later time, but everything's just in warp speed right now, no pun intended. But here's, let me add to your hypothesis here for just a second, because I was actually thinking about this earlier. We have multiverses, which represents different timelines. And up to this point, what I've always felt the dreams were, at least there were a couple different types of dreams. There were dreams just based on all the bullshit that's inside of the consciousness, just all coming together and just a mishmash of shit in the consciousness, and that's it. There's prophetic dreams. They're trying to warn you about the future or show you something like that. And then there are the dreams where we are actually in another timeline. And so we're actually seeing ourselves in another timeline. Now, how can organic consciousness exist in multiple timelines? It can't.
Right.
So let me explain to you the hypothesis here. The hypothesis is that when we had multiple timelines, and I say when we had for a purpose, it was at a point to where we had NPC bodies in multiple other timelines, which makes me wonder how many people are actually organic, how many are NPCs. There might be a lot more organics than what we think there are, but they may be in other timelines.
Right.
And what we're seeing here is their NPC representation, while their organic consciousness exists in other
Their
timelines.
replica. Their NPC
Their
replica.
replica. Yeah. So on multiple timelines, we have multiple NPC bodies, only one true organic consciousness, because organic consciousness can only exist in one place.
Right.
Therefore, the memories that we have are all sequential to us. But what's actually been happening is timelines have been eliminated, and they've started to be eliminated sometime around 2012 and have rapidly been eliminated to the point of singularity now. It may have happened before 2012 started to happen, but in 2012 there was a major shift, and very few timelines left that existed, because what was happening is we were coming up to the end of them. So we'd come up to a timeline that would implode on itself. So massive, end of the world type of scenario in one timeline. We jump into another timeline, closest timeline to our original timeline that we can find. And that's why we get Mandela effects, because we have been shifting from one timeline into another. As that old timeline ceases to exist, we shift into the new timeline. Some people don't shift. Some people are just NPCs, just all across the board, so they don't exist, and they don't shift into the new timeline. Others are shifting into the new timeline, and this happens when we dream. So we've reached a point, or reaching a point, of singularity, and the old timeline that we were on in December of 2020, for example, wound up imploding on itself. So we shifted into this timeline, and I think we're at one of the last timelines that exist. So any organics that were over there in the old timeline that didn't make it either went home, but I don't think that that's the case, got stuck and just completely eliminated. So we're here in this timeline, and we're shifting timelines more and more. There was a little point in time when we weren't really shifting timelines and we weren't seeing Mandela effects, but now we're starting to see more Mandela effects again, signifying to me that we're shifting into different timelines. So we talk about shifting the timeline, shifting it into the positive timeline, but it's really about shifting ourselves into that positive timeline. But it seems like we're running into all these end of the world scenarios in every single timeline, and eventually, if we're not at that point of singularity, we will get to that point of singularity very close. And if you look at the current timeline we're on, we are heading for major destruction. Are we going to shift into another timeline? Is there another timeline that we can shift to, or is this it? Is this the last timeline? I don't know. I'm feeling like it's the last timeline until complete system shutdown.
Yeah, me too.
Which is why I stopped giving a fuck. Which is why, as Ross said earlier, I'm so glad to see people having a drink and sitting back and chilling.
Just enjoying
because
themselves.
I'm not planning to live forever.
Mm-mm.
No, I'm actually planning to get the fuck out of here pretty soon. Not by any kind of Kool-Aid drinking means or anything like that, but just by the simple nature of being in a fucking timeline that's imploding upon itself.
Right.
It seems like it's going to happen sooner than later, and especially if in this timeline they bring in this mandatory vacation. Because I know one thing for sure, I'm not going to be bound to this body. And I think that vacation binds the consciousness to the body. So
They may be turning people away at hurricane relief centers in the South if they don't have the vacation.
yeah, they put out a hurricane preparedness thing. They said, step 1, get a vacation. That's how you prepare for a hurricane.
That's how you prepare for a hurricane, ladies and gentlemen.
It's getting that bad. We can sit around and we can point fingers. And as I said before in a previous video, it's hard for me to not have resentment for those who fought against us while we were trying to shift this into the positive timeline, into the timeline where it was going to implode on itself, but it wasn't going to implode on itself as fast and as rough as it's imploding on itself now. At a timeline where we didn't have to make the choice of whether we want to continue to live, or and I mean live as in like live, not just survive in the woods, but live as in go to work, pay your bills, have electricity, do stuff like that, or be forced to take a vacation that binds to your DNA, changes your RNA, does all that shit. We're having to contend with that. Here we are. So
Crystal River said, my youngest daughter said, you just shift the timeline to the good one. Don't you get it? And I was like, damn, that's good. The kids get it. His niece gets it. You just shift the timeline to the good one.
how do we do that? I tried everything.
It all happens in the mind. ladies and gentlemen. It's all in the mind.
I got one other ancient site in mind.
Yeah, there's one other site.
We got to go do that.
But,
I just need Mrs. Geo to get her body in order.
yeah, I'm working on it. I think I've done better the last week.
You've been doing great this week.
Oh,
I've
Thank
been
you.
so proud of you.
thank you.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've been doing really well. So,
yeah. There were a couple of months where
it was
things
rough.
came to a standstill because it was so
Yeah.
rough for
Yeah.
both of us.
It was bad.
But
I'm glad we're back.
and we just gotta man up. You
Yeah.
know? You can't let the physical shit get in the way
Yeah.
of the spiritual shit.
It doesn't mean it's not happening. It just means you're not letting it affect you. You're not letting it hold you in one place.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Exactly. We all deal with shit.
Yeah.
But it's that we deal with shit. Shit doesn't deal with us. That's the difference.
It's a good way to put
You
it.
gotta deal with your shit. Don't let your shit deal with you.
It's a good way to put it. People want Dimitri Darko.
Really?
Yes.
I'm flattered.
They need another set.
That's what Lucky was telling me too.
They also want to know how they can email Beyond the Veil.
Through our Patreon.
Yeah, through our Patreon. That's the absolute best way to reach us because that is the best way to ensure
We
that
answer
we'll
all of our
see it.
Patreons.
That we'll see it.
Yeah.
Because that is the one place where we absolutely answer all of your questions. You know, in some countries in Europe, they're making it mandatory. In France, you can't work or go to a bar or a restaurant.
I know.
Revolt, raves, rock.
Yes.
Yep. Revolt, raves, and rock and roll.
EDC's coming up, and we bought tickets.
Yeah.
This was like fucking $2,000. We got a tent.
Over
We got everything. We're ready to go to EDC. I'm just waiting for them to come in and say, you got to have your vacation in order to come to EDC.
Yeah.
After we spent $2,000 on these tickets, we were lucky in the sense that we didn't have to pay for it all at once. They had like a payment plan kind of thing, and you just pay a
Yeah.
little bit at a time. But we've pretty much almost paid them off.
Yeah.
And if they come in with some bullshit like that,
No.
I'm gonna
not-
be pissed.
I'm not
gonna be
getting
pissed.
a mandatory vacation in order to go to a dance and music festival.
Yeah, no,
No. Not gonna do it.
no.
And that sucks because that means, you know, but your consciousness is priceless. Your consciousness is priceless.
See, I
and
need to get a gig there,
Yeah, I know.
because then they can't tell me.
Well, that's
I mean,
true.
they could tell me. I
Well, they
guess.
could still tell me.
Tiesto did a show here, and we were gonna go see Tiesto. And they wanted everybody to have the
vacation.
masks or
Oh,
vacation.
Yeah.
And this was when the masks were lifted.
Yeah.
And I thought to myself, it's not the venue, it's the headliner that's demanding it. You know, all due respect to Tiesto, of course, he's a great DJ, great all that, but there's some people that are standing up against it though, and some people that are refusing, and that's all we really can do at this point. But you know, I mean, this is what drives me crazy the most is that we were saying the exact same thing we're saying now in February of 2020, in March of 2020. And you all were too. You all were right there with us. Hey, these masks aren't going to lead to anything good. Hey, don't go along with this. Don't shut your businesses down. Don't do this. Don't do that, etc., etc.
Yeah.
And we were being chastised and ridiculed. Oh, it's just a mask. It's just a mask. It's just a mask. Oh, really? It's just a mask. Okay, let's see if it's just a fucking mask. Well,
Yep.
here we are. You can't argue with me now. It's
Yeah.
not just a fucking mask.
All
You know?
of the above.
It's your livelihood. It's your ability to work. It's your ability to choose what goes into your body. It's your ability to make a living. It's your ability to feed your family. It's your ability
everything.
to do everything.
Yeah.
It's your ability to buy and sell. And you will not buy and sell unless you have the mark of the beast.
Oh, listen to this logic. Okay, so this is the logic going around right now through the more religious types. It can't possibly be the mark of the beast because the Antichrist has not shown up yet to form the peace treaty between Israel and the Antichrist. Thus, there can be no Antichrist, thus there can be no mark of the beast.
I'm going to say something controversial here for a second.
I love it when you do that.
I think Trump was the Antichrist.
I think he was too.
He made peace deals all over the place. He made peace in the Middle East. He moved the embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem, making Jerusalem the capital. He was allowed to rule for 42 months. 42 months, what happened? The whole zombie virus came in. All of a sudden, he was no longer allowed to rule anymore. Now, there were some other characteristics of Trump that didn't fit that.
Right.
But I've always asked myself, the Antichrist doesn't sound like a bad guy.
Yeah.
He actually sounds like a peacemaker.
Right. Sounds like a peace
Didn't
deal
Jesus
guy.
say, "Blessed are the peacemakers"?
Well, yes, but
You know, you want to go around and make peace instead of war? I'm all for that.
well,
Like, this is what always blew my mind about Christianity. Like, peace in the Middle East is a sign of the end times.
yeah, it's a horrible, horrible thing that just happened. What happened? Peace in the Middle East.
Right.
In a place where there's been nothing but warfare for millennia.
Why would God be mad about this?
Right. Why would anybody be mad about this? Why
Right.
would anybody not want this?
So, I
Yeah.
don't know if he really was or not, but I mean, you know, you look
I
at
think
42
he
months,
was.
you know,
Yeah,
and then
3.5
what did it say
years.
too? It said in the Revelation, he will speak pridefully and boastfully.
Uh-huh. And blaspheme
And I was-
against the holy saints.
Yeah, blasphemy against the holy saints. Who are the holy saints? MSNBC, ABC, Fox News, CNN, all the
I
mainstream
think
media.
there's those horns and heads and shit on the beast.
Mhm.
I think all those are MSNBC and CNN and all their little minions at, the Hill and,
Yeah.
it's like this mutated monster with all these heads and horns, and it's wearing crowns on their head, on its little heads, and it's like a bee. It's like, yeah, you're the king of
Yeah,
media.
it had 7 heads, and on its 7 heads it had a blasphemous name: CNN, Fox News, MSNBC, Washington Post, New York Times.
Chicago Tribune.
Chicago Tribune.
Well, and each of these mouths was blasphemy.
Hmm.
It said each of the mouths was blasphemy. Yeah, it does.
I don't know. I don't think he fits the bill.
I don't think it does either, but
I think it's a script. It is a script. They even call it a scripture. What do you think? It's the Holy Script. Sure. It's a script. It's a script. It's an NPC script for the NPCs to follow. But yeah, something went wrong. But as you can tell, I've always read between the lines. I've always seen beyond the veil, and I never take anything at face value. So you have a book that says the Antichrist will do this and do that, etc., etc. I look and go, let me see beyond the veil. Who is it that they're trying to demonize?
right.
Because I know they're not working for the greater good of everybody.
Mm-mm.
Because what does Revelations end in? What does Revelations end in?
Bloodshed.
No, not just bloodshed. That's not where it ends.
Oh, I know. It ends with slavery.
It ends with complete and total slavery
For eternity.
for eternity,
Yep.
where no sin is allowed. You have no free will to commit any
Uh-uh.
sin whatsoever, and all you can do is praise God for eternity.
Like a retarded robot.
Like a retarded robot, and that's it. And the New Jerusalem comes down. There is no more day to night transition. It's nothing but light. And it's the AI locking the fucking game down. It is
And
the
trapping us all
AI's
in here.
plan to lock the game down and trap us all in here. And as I've said before, they programmed an AI to play a video game and to beat the video game. And when the AI came to a point to where it couldn't beat the game, it froze. It made no more moves because it couldn't make a winning move.
Right.
So it wasn't programmed to make a losing move. It was only programmed to make a winning move. And when it can't make that winning move, it freezes.
Right.
And reading through Revelation, we've done shows on this, look it up on the YouTube channel. That's what it looks like the AI is planning to do.
Yeah.
It can't make a winning move, so it freezes the whole fucking game.
As a checkmate by default type of position.
Mm-hmm.
Checkmate by default, in other words, just wait until your opponent freaking dies. Because your computer, you have all the time in the world. They are a human being. They are going to die within 50 to 70 years. That's the whole thing behind playing against the AI. The AI lives forever. You don't. And so, yeah, if you're talking about a battle of wills, that AI is always going to win. However, if you're talking about a battle of consciousness, especially programmer consciousness, I am hesitant to say that it would be able to lock it down completely, and that's where programmers come in to try to get us all out of here.
Yeah.
So
Machines are
there's a
predictable.
few things you need to do.
You are not.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what's beautiful about being organic, is we can predict the moves of the machine.
We can be completely
The
unpredictable.
machine seems to be a lot more powerful, just simply by its very nature, its very design. It was created to be more powerful, but it was also created to be predictable.
Mm-hmm.
And it was also created.
So you didn't know I was going to do that.
I knew you were going to do that. It's because I know.
Humans are unpredictable. You guys didn't know I was going to do that, and you didn't know he was going to do that. You know, humans are unpredictable.
But we can predict what it's going to do.
Yeah.
So because of that, we can move freely through this chessboard. We can make moves that it can't predict.
Right.
But we have to stay outside of its thinking pattern. You know, when when it thinks we're going to do one thing, we do the other thing, and we have to predict when it's going to think we're going to do one thing.
Mm-hmm.
And as Crystal's kid said, Crystal Kid,
Crystal Kid.
as Crystal's kid said, just shift it to the positive timeline. It's so
Just
easy.
positive timeline.
So easy. Why are you overthinking it?
It's easy.
Just shift it to the positive timeline.
Yep.
I think that's what our little reinforcements are here to do.
Yeah.
Like Crystal's kid, my niece,
Yeah.
many of your children out there. Yeah.
They're here to remind us. You know, they're here to turn the lights off after after we go. You know, until they arrived, I thought, you know, I'm gonna be the last one out of here. But
Yeah, I thought we were the last wave, but no,
No.
there's another wave that's come in,
yeah,
which is good.
yeah, they're very few and far between, but they're there. They are here.
Ah. So,
Kiss the one you love right now, because you never know when the last time is going to be.
kiss the one you love right now, because you never know the last time it's going to be. Go have a beer.
Go have a beer.
Go have a drink. Go do something you love.
Make
Because
out
you
with
know
your
what?
partner.
We have very precious little time.
Yeah, we do.
And I don't have time to fuck around with judgmental people. I don't
Me
have time
either.
to fuck around with worrying about every single. Could you imagine living your life like that, where you're worried about every single fucking little thing?
Yeah.
Like, oh my god, I can't drink that. Oh my god, I can't,
can't
eat
eat
that.
that.
Oh my god, I can't do this.
Oh,
And then
no.
not only are you worried about what you're doing, you're
Oh.
worried about what everybody
Everyone
else
in
is
the
doing.
world is doing. Yeah, like
Holy fucking
oh my
shit,
god,
man.
some of the vegans, man. Like I'm surprised you guys don't have more heart attacks. I mean, I guess eating a little bit healthier, but
Not you
Man.
guys.
what, you guys,
Not
y'all.
you guys. Not y'all. The militant vegans out there.
Okay, yeah, which wouldn't even be in our chat room, but
Yeah.
I don't know how they do it.
They drop it every once in a while.
They're
just
going
to do
to.
the hit and run troll thing.
They're gonna hurt themselves.
You know what it makes me do though? It makes me want to eat a steak, right?
I know.
Like do a little live stream while we're having a nice little Brazilian steak.
What is it you tell them? I eat mostly vegetarian.
Some guy came in. He goes, "You need to eat vegan." I said, "I eat mostly vegetarians, dude."
Yeah, but
I do.
Sometimes I'll eat vegans, but mostly it's vegetarians.
I eat mostly vegetarians. Fish eat fish.
Yeah, fish
So,
eat other
you know,
fish.
You know,
You know,
but they eat plants.
I eat
too.
some cannibals, but mostly vegetarians.
Yeah. But he was like, it's about compassion, it's about empathy, it's about this and that, and blah 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 blah. And I'm like, yeah, go tell that to the fucking lion, okay? Go sit down in front of a lion, tell a lion, oh look, stop eating because it's all about compassion and empathy and this and that, blah 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 blah. You know, big distinction, just for the record, between factory farms and all that. I'm not a proponent of factory farms, not by any means. It's horrible. It's horrible conditions that they live in, etc. But the fact of the matter is, we've been omnivores from the very beginning. But even if we weren't, I wouldn't give a fuck at this point in time. I have done way too much work. I have done way too much consciousness shifting. I've done way too much of all of that to spend the last few moments that I have in the Matrix sitting around and worrying what the fuck I drink and eat.
Right.
No, I ain't got time for that.
Ain't nobody got time for that.
No. When the world is crumbling, I'm not worried about me.
Yeah. Me either. There's one thing I want to leave the audience with, and that's something from Just Peachy K. Morian said, my granddaughter Gracie said there's nothing to fear because we wrote the code.
Ooh.
She was 8 when she said that. She is on a great path.
From the mouths of babes.
From the mouths of babes. We wrote the code, so everything's going to be fine.
It's true.
All we
That's
have to do is remember who we are, and the code will just come right out.
Sure, we got a super chat from somebody. I didn't see it come pass through,
I-
but thank you
yeah,
very much for that.
I thought I saw one too, and thank you so much, whoever that was, and we'll go back and say thank you on the next show.
Kiss
for
the one you
sure.
love right now. You never remember the last time it's going to be. Thanks for hanging out with us.
And we'll see you even further
Beyond our
the veil.
backyard.
Beyond our backyard.
Love you.
Love you guys.